Hello everyone, XV here from youtube.com/XVRogueGaming, and this is the 9th video in a weekly series I'm doing for Dotacinema designed to take your game to the next level. Congratulations to this week's winner, FC Anko, for posting a suggested topic in the comments for last week's tutorial. Remember that your topic doesn't need to be the one chosen. All you have to do to win is be subscribed to my channel and let me know something you'd like to learn about. A lot of comments have been asking for this topic, and there's been a debate as to whether or not there's enough depth to devote an entire episode to it. Well, buckle up, because this topic is so large that this is the first in a multi-part series on warding. It's important to understand that there's no set regimen of wards. I could simply ping the map as to where wards go, but while it's good to know where to ward, it's far more important to know why to ward there. The reason I consider this important is because, on average, we will only have 2 active wards at any given time. Making sure they're placed in relevant locations is much better than having them down in spots you saw on a minimap picture that are actually irrelevant to the current game. As such, I've divided wards into 3 phases: early, mid, and late game, as well as 2 categories: offensive and defensive. I will also be touching on where I stand when placing wards, as it can help you avoid unnecessary deaths while warding. This episode is a comprehensive guide for the Radiant. As mentioned, we should have goals in mind when we place wards. We either want defensive knowledge or offensive knowledge. Let's take a look at the minimap without any wards down. Towers and creep provide us with excellent vision, and the river is the real end of our sight. Defensively, we want knowledge of runes and vision of places where we can be backstabbed. So let's go through the ward spots, starting with the top lane. Just below the tree here is an excellent place to plant a ward if you're against an aggressive duo or trio. It allows you to move up to just in front of the tower without any fear of being wrapped around. For extra vision, you can also Quelling Blade or Tango these 2 trees. Trees respawn every 5 minutes, but a ward lasts 6, so it lines up well enough. This is a very common ward I see placed. First off, note how I'm placing the ward. This ward can also be put down from the river, but doing so puts you in a precarious position, begging to be ganked. To be honest though, I find this ward useless. It grants vision to the rune spot, but the rest of the vision it provides isn't important. Any warning we get from it is very late. Next up, this ward provides us with good vision of the high ground as well as the rune, but it's overly defensive during the early game, and if we're only going to get 2, I would prefer something with more duality. Instead, this ward. It provides the same vision of the rune while also giving us insight into the dire jungle, and notably this path right here, which is commonly how middle will shift top for a gank after checking the rune. While this is one of the most common wards I see placed, this ward is terrible, and is similarly overly defensive like the Radiant Ancient ward. Though it does give vision of the ramp into the Radiant jungle as well as the rune, we can do better. The only reason to place that ward is if you're overly concerned for the safety of your middle lane, as well as wanting rune vision. Thus, placing this ward is infinitely superior. We maintain the vision of the rune, but can also now see ganks heading middle on both the high and low ground. Note that for both of these wards I place them from the high ground to avoid being caught out of position. My favorite ward for the bottom rune is here. It can be placed from the safety of these trees, and it not only lets you see the rune, but also gives you vision behind the tree line you spend most of your time fighting at while in bottom lane. This keeps you safe from ganks and shuts down tri-lanes pretty hard. I cannot emphasize the importance of placing the ward from the angle I'm demonstrating enough. If the Dire is tri-laning and you're a level 1 support hero who bought wards, you're going to die if you just walk out to where they're waiting. Best case scenario, you see them and get away. But if that happens, then you didn't get the ward down. Offensive warding in early game focuses around the middle lane. In keeping with our theme of duality, this ward maintains vision of the rune but also gives us clear sight into the Dire high ground. This is especially important for heroes such as Tinker, Shadow Demon, or Pudge, but any mid-hero can always use the extra knowledge of the enemy's position. While there are different definitions of the mid-game, for our purposes we're going to consider the mid-game from a warding perspective to be when the first tier of towers has gone down. Let's check back in on our minimap. We see that our vision has dramatically changed. With the towers down, some of the wards that weren't useful early game become relevant. If you intend on farming the ancients or the top lane, this ward is very valuable. Likewise, this ward here is now amazing for tracking dire ganks while farming middle or bottom. Lastly, this ward is worth considering while farming bottom, as many gankers will use this path to bypass the common ramp ward. At this stage in the game, offensive wards really open up. Here is one of the best offensive wards you can place for the top lane. It gives you amazing vision down the straightaway for catching enemy heroes, as well as foresight while you push along what is otherwise a very long and blind path, especially at night. A great time to place this ward is right after you kill the tier 1 tower, since you have the presence and positioning anyways. Next up is on top of the small rock. This gives you good vision of a path often traveled by the dire to position as well as jungle. As you prepare to take the tier 2 tower top though, you're going to want a ward here to scout if the opposing team is defending you or not, and also is great for seeing the enemy jungle movement. This ward isn't very popular, and I only suggest using it if the dire has strong teamfight heroes such as Sand King, Faceless Void, or Enigma, as they will want to stage behind these trees and blink in and drop their ultimates on you as you push the tier 2 middle. Otherwise, you can live without it. Conversely, a ward here will give you vision of the secret shop and a more common staging area. Pretty much the be-all end-all for the middle lane, this ward can be placed safely from the woods off to the side and provides you with amazing vision up the center without being in range of the tower's true sight. These last two deserve a special mention as they open up a safe Roshan play. It's pretty much impossible to get jumped in the Rosh pit with these two wards up. Lastly, much like its middle counterpart, a ward just above the tree lets you foresee wraparounds when taking the bottom tier 2. If the bottom tier 1 isn't dead yet though, placing it a little bit lower is excellent for your own backstabs to go off without a hitch. Vision of the high ground is always important. When defending middle tier 2 or a split push on your tier 3, the dire will often swing through here. This ward isn't paramount, but it's worth mentioning. This ward, however, is very important. Note how I approach it. Going around either other path is asking to get murdered. Don't forget that you can still plant the mid-game defensive wards if you want to be more proactive with your farm though. Also note that if you lose any tier 3 towers, you should place wards where they fell, if not a little closer to the edge of the hill. People take for granted the vision the towers provide until it's too late, especially at night. Offensively, the ward placement is pretty much the inverse. The tall rock formation is paramount and should be one of the first placed. Lastly, the moment you take a tier 3 tower, it should be immediately replaced with one of your wards. Vision into the enemy high ground lets you split push infinitely better, as well as giving you the ability to hook and snipe heroes. While there are a few other common places I see Radiant put wards, I don't really consider them competitive. Remember that it's you who decide the topic, so be sure to post in the comments below what you'd like to see, and subscribe to my channel to be eligible to win. As always though, if you like this video, please thumbs up, share, and check out my channel for more in-depth guides and exclusive content and contests. Next week, Dire Wards. Until then, this is XV, signing out.